Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of The Buzz. I'm Todd Jaden. With me, as usual, Kelly Polk, and we have a guest with us this week, Stu Sarkela. And Kelly, it's not often that we have a guest that has been with Schneider longer than both you and I.
Yeah.
But Stu was here when I started, and
Yeah.
so we go back almost 30 years, because I'll be 29 years in February, and Stu, I think you celebrated your 30th anniversary this year, didn't you?
Just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. So congratulations
Yeah.
on the anniversary. And Stu is with us today, and he's going to talk about fuel and MPG. But before we do that, why don't you give our viewers a little background on how long you've been here? They already know 30 years, but what you've done in the course of that 30 years and what you're doing now.
Sure. Most of that time I've worked with drivers in operations, so operations roles as a DVL and operations managers at a couple different locations, and worked with independent contractors in our specialized division for a few years. And right now I'm working in Van Truckload on projects related to onboarding our new test tractors and just MPG improvement in general.
And what's critical about MPG, if you don't know this, you should, so take this as the tip of the week. Fuel is our second largest cost behind our driver wages, so a very, very important aspect of what we do. We're one of the best in the industry in this space, and it's because of folks like Stu that we are one of the best. And I remember the old fuel school stuff we used to do when we first started, and if there's some of the more tenured drivers out there, you might actually remember the Silver Shield program. That's going way back, but we've always been kind of on the leading edge of technology related to fuel and fuel consumption, and it's no different this year with the initiatives that Stu is working on. So I know, Kelly, when you drove, you were subject to a lot of the,
absolutely.
the fuel things that we did, and so...
Yeah. Still subscribe to it. A lot of good best practices out there that many of our drivers still use. So.
Well, and I know for me, I use them personally as
Yeah,
well. So there's a number of the tips that
Right.
that we've picked up over the years to enhance our own fuel mileage in our personal vehicles. So why don't you tell us what's new in the technology space? We talked about fuel sensors with our viewers just a couple of weeks ago. How's that going?
Well, this is a great time to be working on this. We finally got some technology in our industry now that's really helping us get traction around MPG. And the driving tips you talked about, a lot of those old tips are still great tips. So our drivers are doing a great job of delivering that part of the operation. But the technology is starting to catch up and help us again. So this year in Van Truckload, every month we set a new record this year over year and month over month in fuel economy. So it's just fantastic payback on the investment in new technology, new tractors, and some of the process changes we've made. And some in September in particular, driver performance stood out as being kind of that lever that took us to have our best year-over-year improvement of the year. We had over a 7% improvement in MPG in September versus September last year. So with pretty much the same fleet of tractors in September Van Truckload had the month before and the month before that. We had a few changes, but not much. We had our widest gap in MPG performance, and we really saw it in the use of cruise control in the driver fleet. So it wasn't an accident. We knew in the kind of the driver parts of the performance, that's really what kind of helped us widen that gap.
Now, in addition to the fuel sensors, Stu, I mean, we have tractors that's approaching 8 miles a gallon. Well, we're on our way to 10 miles a gallon with many of our the advances that we're experiencing right now. Fuel sensor is the newest thing, but what are some of the other fuel MPG enhancement techniques and things that we've done up to this point?
Well, we've done a number of things. So the new tractor in general is the most aerodynamic and fuel efficient engine we've had. The in-cab technology has gotten better, but so predictive cruise control has been a big help. And we've done some things to specialize our fleet. We used to be a one-size-fits-all tractor fleet. Now we've got regional differences that really put the right tools in the right hands, so in the right spot. So in the south we've had Park Smart, which made a big difference this summer. So huge difference in idle with the in-cab off, engine off cooling that we have with Park Smart. So that's driven up, more than 10% of our fleet had a big leg up on MPG there.
Yeah.
But really nationwide, we've had every business group has had improved MPG.
Now, the winter months brings about some unique challenges. What are some things that drivers can be doing to perhaps enhance their MPG during the winter months.
Yeah, it is a challenging time period, and the biggest thing is, with the cold weather, the cold temperatures, the air is more dense, so we have more aerodynamic drag. And as you remember from fuel school,
Yeah.
that's the big deal. After about 55 miles an hour, that's most of the work our trucks are doing, and even with the aerodynamics of the truck, it still is. So we want to do everything we can to beat those aerodynamics. So as slippery as we can make that truck, we want to do that. So things like shortening that gap between tractor and trailer, that makes us slipperier. So in cold weather, you always get a payback. In cold weather, the payback is even better. And the same thing with things like wheel covers. Those also help us stay slippery.
Trailer skirts.
Trailer skirts are a biggie. No, and all year I think our drivers have done a great job when we have a choice, picking a skirted trailer and using it, and we're putting the miles on them as we want to, and our fleet's gotten better too. We've gotten way ahead of the CARB requirement on equipping our trailer fleet with skirts. So we had to be at 50% by end of year. We're way over 2/3 equipped right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. In my time with the organization, I was here when, as a fleet, we exceeded the 5 mile per gallon average as a fleet. 6 miles per gallon, 7 miles per gallon. Now we're getting large components of the fleet exceeding 8 miles to the gallon. Right. As a fleet average, we're not there yet.
Right.
But I expect that will happen in my career here. We will
absolutely.
exceed 8 miles to the gallon. And then we'll get into that 10 miles to the gallon. And boy, I tell you, when I started here, if someone would have said, do you think you'll be around when your fleet gets to 10 miles to the gallon? I probably would have said no. But clearly with the technological advances and the great performance and execution by our driver group, that's going to happen. And it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
And the reality is the industry's going in that direction. And so in order for us to compete and be successful, we have no choice. We have to continue to evolve and get better at this particular critical key factor.
And as we get better, our providers will get better. So you talk to folks from Goodyear about their tires. You talk to the Freightliner folks and the aerodynamics of a tractor. You talk to our engine provider, Detroit Diesel, and everything's just getting more and more efficient to include things like the wheel covers and the trailer skirts that we talked about. So some really neat stuff. Anything else we should be looking forward to in this space?
No, I appreciate the job drivers are doing to drive safely, and yes, we want to use cruise control as much as we can to in the winter months as in summer, but there's a safety factor out there. So
Sure.
Safety's number one, and will be lowest cost after we're safe.
Well, Stu, thanks for coming in. It's great information, and certainly we look forward to your feedback around the fuel sensor, which should be a non-issue for our drivers and should provide us a lot of benefit just in terms of how we plan fuel stops for the fleet.
Great. Well,
Good.
thanks for having me.
Well, coming up, in the weeks to come, certainly this week is a big week, Todd, for our
it's Halloween.
It's Halloween, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Can't wait to see your costume.
Yeah. You're looking at it right now.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, but the end of the week, so the day after Halloween, November 1st, the open enrollment for benefits starts. And so for those of you that saw Teresa Dax with us last week, remember that. If you haven't seen it, go out. Is that still out on Crossroads? Sherry's nodding her head. Yes, so it's still out there.
In the archives.
Okay, it's in the archives. So go find that. That open enrollment is from November 1st through November 27th. My advice is get it done early.
Sure, yeah. And the other thing we wanted to just kind of give you a teaser for, again, we keep talking about Brian Pasterski and Steve Jaworzinski perhaps joining us in the next couple weeks to talk about ambient temperature sensor, on guard, all of those topics. So expect them probably before the Thanksgiving holidays, but they'll be joining us as well. So a lot of information coming. Keep giving us your feedback, but be careful out there. Halloween is upon us, and we don't want to watch the kids running across the street.
All right, that's a wrap for this week. Thank you. Take care. Drive safe.
See you next time.